You watch guys like Henry, Clef, and John Beast win every tournament, and you wonder, how do these guys seem to be so good? Well, in this video, I'm breaking down 10 pro tips they all use to dominate, and so long as you follow those tips, you're going to be doing the same. I will warn you though, if you skip out any of these tips, it could be the reason you're still not winning games. Let's jump right into it. The first thing we're going to be breaking down is rocky catching. It's really good. Let me show you why. All right, so when we talk about rocky catching, we're just going to put them in man coverage just like this, okay? And what I'm referencing is the fact that you're just going to be able to just chuck streaks right at their face, all right? We have Keon Coleman. He's a 6'3" wide receiver. He's really great to do this with, all right? Boom, we're going to take the snap, and as soon as the defender turns his back, you just want to pass lead that streak down like it's a curl route, okay? It's actually pretty consistent, so again, you're just going to put him on, I guess is that technically called a fade, all right? We're going to put him on a fade, and boom, as soon as we see that defender turn his back, we're gonna throw it. Now granted, Josh Allen looking like playoffs Josh Allen right there, but it's all about the timing. All right, take the snap, wait for the defender to turn his back, then we throw the curl, and then you're able to see we're gonna break it in, because the important thing is why catching, clicking onto your man and coming back to the ball. All right, so boom, take it, wait for him to turn his back, passing that ball down like it's a curl. We're able to get our hands on it. We're always pretty much gonna be able to box this man out. All right, boom, wait for the man to turn his back up the field, then we throw it, and there you go. All right, maybe I just have to wait a little bit longer, all right? So the key is just actually waiting for as long as possible for him to turn his back, because you got to think about it. He's running up the field. He's running a streak. So then you're just going to boom, pass the ball down. You see how I click on before he even turns around? And so then I'm able to just basically catch that ball like it's a curl, all right? It's pretty easy to do, and it's something that you need to start doing against those man coverage spammers. All right, next we're going to be talking about the best defense settings that all the pros use to play lockdown defense. Let me show you. All right, so when we talk about defense settings, again, this is what all the pros are going to use, right? They're just going to make sure their cornerback matchups are on balance so that their defenders aren't following receivers. They're going to make sure they have defense and motion response on disabled, especially because a lot of these guys run zone coverage, RPO pass key conservative, curl flats. I mean, okay, we're going to talk about zone drops later in the video, so stay tuned for that. Those are going to kind of depend on the situation, but everyone uses safety depth close, safety with pinch, all right? And then they all have the same, game options turned on, all right? Game options, we're gonna scroll down until we find gameplay helpers. Ball hawk on, right? Helps you catch interceptions. Heat seeker aggressors on, helps you make gap shooting dive tackles. All right, heat seeker window, make sure that's on 100. Switch delay on none, all right? And then switch assist on, all right? That's gonna help you change players, all right? So those are really the best defensive settings, all right? If we go ahead, jump onto the field, and I show you why we want to make sure we have our safety depth on close. All right, we're just going to call 4 verticals, all right? Or we're not 4 verticals. We're just going to call 2 verticals right here. You're just going to watch this, how close our safeties are, and they're not going to be able to throw that pass because the window's too tight. There's not enough space in between the linebackers and the safeties here for us to ever just be able to just chuck a seam. You're able to see Ramsey. If you don't have your safety depth on close, you're never going to be able to defend that. Like that area of the field, that seam area, right in between the safeties, linebackers, corners, is just going to be wide open. But since you have your safety depth on close, and sometimes you have really good DBs, you're just going to be closer to the ball. Now, if like some people are scared to have their safety depth on close because they think they're just going to get beat over the top. That's not the case, because you're able to see Ramsey is able to drift all the way back. He's going to be able to make that play when the ball's in the air, even if they try to lob a pass over the top. So there's no real downside to having your safety depth on close, especially when you combine that with the width on pinch. It's really the best settings, and if you watch MCS, you're going to see all the pro players use it. All right, next we're going to break down a tip that's going to make your offense 10 times better, especially when you're boxed. Let me show you. All right, and that tip that I'm going to be breaking down here is going to be the Playmaker, okay? Playmaker, Playmaker, Playmaker. Now, what you're going to see is some people are going to shade their coverage down. And what does that do? It moves the hook zones further down. All right, so those guys are going to be sitting at 5 yards. Well, what's going to happen is if you want to put a drag, let's say on Khalil Shakir right here, right? And they have their hooks. You see how low those guys are? And so then you're just going to Playmaker your receiver up the field, all right? I'm not really sure why it Playmakered the guy down the field, but we're just going to set up a route concept like this where, Shakir is the only man that's going to get Playmaker here, okay? We're going to shade their coverage down so that now their hooks are on 5, all right? You're going to hold left trigger, and then you're going to see how he just is going to run up the field, all right? And that's the use case, right? When they want to run a defense like that where they're getting really aggressive with their hook zones, zones. Their hook zones are coming really far down. Well, now you just hold left trigger, right stick up, all right? And you're going to be able to playmaker your man up the field. So, I mean, it's really just that simple, really that easy. Boom, playmaker. You see how low those guys are. But here's the thing. If they don't shade their coverage down, right? And it's always going to be the nearest receiver that's going to be playmaker. If they don't shade their coverage down, well, then you just hit the drag. So you're really just making the read. You're going to put the drag on the field or an in route, whatever you want to do. You're going to put that on the field. But then if they get really aggressive, especially with their zones, or if they want to user it, for example, then you just playmaker right over them. And then, you know, it's going to be a huge gain down the field. Again, hold left trigger and then right stick up. All right, you're gonna see they're gonna they're gonna shade their coverage down, and there you go. I playmaker Shakir down. You obviously need time in the pocket to be able to do this, right? So that's kind of the thing, right? So I mean, look, if, like I said earlier, if they shade their coverage, if they don't shade their coverage, just throw the drag. If they do shade their coverage, I mean, you're boxed here, right? If they shade their coverage down, you're boxed. But then you're going to playmaker Shakir up the field, and you're going to have a big game like I showed you earlier. So that's a great use case for the playmaker, and it's something that all the pro players are doing right now. All right, what you probably clicked in this video for, BLT, how are all the pro players speed bursting around the field? Let me show you how they do it. All right, so first I'm going to come into offense only practice mode, all right? You want to come into your coaching, you want to come into your depth chart, you want to make sure that your halfback, whoever's carrying the ball, has, you know, good speed, good agility, good change of direction. James Cook is a good option here, all right? So what you're going to see is you're going to take this snap and essentially just going to try to be speed bursting around the field. You see I'm getting like these artificial speed bursts, and I've been practicing this a little bit here because it's not the easiest thing to do, especially at first, but really all you're going to do is hold the right trigger, you're not going to hold the right trigger, but when you want to burst, that's when you hold the right trigger. So right here, I'm not going to hold it, but when I want to burst is when I'm going to start holding it. And sometimes you're going to get more of a burst than others, right? But the key is making sure that you're bursting in opposite directions. So you can't like burst right twice, right? So I can't like just run in this direction. Like I'm not going to get any burst. I have to switch directions here. Boom, burst, and then I'm going like just trying to zigzag around the field. Now I'm gonna put an actual defense in the field here in a second, but I do want to, it's easier to just show you when there's no defense in the field, right? So boom, we're gonna go this way, and you're not gonna get the burst every time, but you're able to see some bursts are more than others, and so then you're just gonna be able to run into the end zone, all right? So again, the key is not holding the right trigger right off the rip. So boom, I'm not gonna hold it, and then I'm just gonna run. And then now I'm holding because I want to burst that way. Now I want to burst this way. Now I want to burst back the other way. Now I want to burst this way. And so I'm just switching which way my left stick, which way I'm kind of aiming my player. And then I'm going to hold right trigger only when I want to burst. Okay, boom. We're gonna burst that way, then we're gonna burst back this way, then we're gonna burst this way. And when you have to take your finger off of the right trigger, and again, you can never just burst in the same direction. You have to change direction. So hopefully that gives you a little breakdown there. But now let's put the defense back on the field. And so we're just going to take this snap, and you can see right there, actually, I bursted. I knew I needed to get out to the right there, so I bursted immediately to the right. There you see, boom, and then I burst back the other way. Yo, those have been some of my best bursts so far, just practicing this a little bit recently. That's kind of what I'm talking about, where it's insanely overpowered, because, I mean, you're just able to rip off these huge runs just because, okay, I take the handoff, I know I want to cut back to the left, to the right, so I burst this way, and then as soon as I'm running up to Joey Porter, I'm just going to burst back the other way and completely mess up his pursuit angle, and now I'm gone, okay? And so I'm just going to do it one more time, boom, you're going to see, burst this way, burst back the other way. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about, where sometimes it's not going to be as easy as, others, but boom, we're going to try to burst this way, boom, and then we're able to turn on the Jets and pick up a big run. Joey Porter or their user defender is going to have absolutely no chance to be able to, stop you here, just because you're just going to burst way, out of his, realm of tackle. So it's really an insanely overpowered trick that you need to practice. So again, right trigger, and then using that left stick to go in the opposite direction of the guy that you're trying to burst away from. All right, if you've enjoyed these 4 tips so far, I recommend you go down below the comment section, comment free. I'll send you a free guide to dominate Madden 26. let's jump right back into it. All right, let me show you the playbook that all the pro players are using on offense right now. All right, and that playbook is going to be the Ben Kurt's Dimes playbook. All right, it's a very, very toxic playbook. It has every play. So if you go on like Huddle GG, for example, you look at Bunch X Nasty, this playbook has every single Bunch Nasty play in the entire game. So 33 plays in Bunch Nasty, and it also has every single play in the game from Bunch tight end. So you can see how ridiculously overpowered that is. Okay, so we have one-play touchdowns, right? So we're going to call one of my favorite one-play touchdowns this soft bounce PA double post. All right, we're going to put them in a cover 3 defense right here, and we're going to put Keon Coleman on a corner route. All right, then we're going to put our tight end on a shriek. Then we're just going to take the snap. All right, and you just have to time it up perfectly. Okay, so boom, that's when you want to throw that pass over the middle of the field to your receiver. When that cornerback in the outside third, when he comes down to try to defend this corner, you see how he comes down? That's when you want to let this rip. And honestly, I feel like I kind of let the pass go a little like late. I felt like boom, I kind of threw it on time. Ball just traveled in the air, and so it's just a really great dot. In the middle. But you also have a backside post with this. So with this specific play, all right, so we're going to put them in cover 3. This time I'm going to click onto a defensive lineman. All right, boom. We're going to put them in cover 3. Look at the post to X. So again, you have to let this guy come in motion. You can't, change anything about that. But you passing that post down right there, and shout out to my tight end for, getting in the way of the ball. But it's like you have many options. So like, let's say they user this crosser. Let's say they user this. Well, now you can just throw this backside post because the safety's being held by this shriek right here. So that's just an easy bomb over the top. But I'm not done here with this Ben Kurt's Dimes playbook because the pro players obviously use this, all the time. You turn on any MCS game, all right? We're going to come next into Gun Bunch tight end. And this is an amazing play that you could probably just put in your audibles, right? PA verticals. We're going to talk about slot fades later on in the video, but PA verticals, all right? All you're going to do, put one of these receivers on a shriek, all right? Boom. Take this, and you actually want to block your running back because you're able to see, boom, cover 2. Look at how far Josh Allen can throw the ball in this game. But make sure you block your running back because especially if they're running cover 2, you just need to wait for this slot fade to X to run over the top of the flat zones, and then you're able to see we get a great pass lead, and we're out of there. All the pros, they're going to use slot fades, and this play has an automatic slot fade. Obviously, you can always just hot route your receivers to that slot fade with the left trigger. I mean, it looks a little bit different, it certainly runs a little bit differently, but you're able to see regardless if you want to put your man on a slot fade, use the slot fade on this play that EA already gives you. I mean, against cover 3, it's just obvious, and wide open one-play touchdown. And you're going to say, BLT, well, now what if they run cover 3? Well, all you really need to do is just change the hash mark that you're on. So make sure you're on the short side with this. And so then you're going to see, boom, you can just pass that ball right on the sideline. Shout out Brandon Cooks for railing that pass in. But you're going to see how that outside third defender is now going to be held right here by this go ball, right, to Shakir. And then you're just going to pass lead your fade on the sideline. So deep zones are going to really struggle against these slot fades in this particular play, PA verticals. And then obviously you call a good route concept, you have your tight end on a drag. So Ben Kurt's Dimes playbook, I mean, I've made many videos, card will be in the top right, where I've broken down the Ben Kurt's Dimes playbook. But just having every bunch tight end play, having bombs like motion halfback choice, having glitch plays like spacing switch, motion cross post, like this is literally a cheat code playbook, and you can start to see why all the pro players are using it right now. All right, I told you the tips were going to get better as the video went along, and the next pro tip is zone drops. How do Henry and Clef use this to their advantage? Let me show you. All right, so when we talk about zone drops, it really comes down to a few things. Stopping underneath passes, stopping deep passes, and then how do you stop both of them at the same time, all right? So we're just going to come into a cover 3 defense, actually, with our curl flats on 5 yards, all right? That's all you have to do. Put your curl flats on 5 and call a cover 3. And if they call like a mesh concept, something like this, I mean, I don't really know. They could call like a post route on their tight end. Okay, so they call a route concept like this. Well, now you have 2 curl flats on the field. All you really need to do is user over the middle now with Holcomb. All right, you have Holcomb, but then you're going to have your 2 curl flats on the outside set to 5 yards in your zone drops, who are literally just going to be sitting on these underneath passes. All right, boom, Ramsey and whoever this is, right? They're both, or this is a linebacker, I believe, or no, whatever, whoever this is. They're both sitting on these underneath routes. So these drags, slants, hitches, whatever it is, over the middle of the field. You can also see how your linebacker's doing a good job of coming down. So, simply putting your curl flats to 5 or shading your coverage down. I mean, you could certainly that's just an extra adjustment you would have to make. They would really be sitting at the same spot. But if they just call a route concept like this, where it's like, okay, all I really need to do is user. All the other guys on the field are going to be taking away their drags, right? And that's where, if you're on offense, right, that would be a great time to use the Playmaker that I talked about earlier, because all their zones are underneath. You see how everything kind of plays off of each other. But when you're on defense, if you're just trying to stop underneath passes, all right, very simple. Put your curl flats on 5 and you're going to be perfectly fine. But you're going to say, BLT, well, now you're in cover 3, right? And so now all they have to do is call a route concept like this instead, where they're going to be attacking just a little bit further down the field, with their tight end. A tight end corner out just like that is going to be wide open the sideline. And you're exactly right. And that's going to lead me into the next thing, which is, how do you stop those type of passes? Those passes that are a little bit deeper, maybe 20 yards down the field, all right? So all you're going to do, come to your zone drops now, okay, put them on 20, all right, Tampa 2 defense. All right, now they're going to call a play like this, corner dig out, all right? And they're going to call a route concept like this. All right, now you're in a cover 2. You have flats on 20 yards. So when they go ahead and take the snap, you're just going to have a man sitting right at that area to, break the pass up. It's going to be very easy. So really, you're just reading it. Where are they running to? Where are their players running? Even if they, again, want to put their tight end on a corner route, right? So maybe call like a double corner route type of concept, right? Well, this is still going to be very good versus that too, because you're able to see we're sitting on everything and he's going to get his feet down and pick that pass off. So whether they want to put, underneath the routes, that's when you use the 5 yards. And then when they want to, push the ball down the field a little bit more, you just set your zone drop to 20 yards, all right? But then you're going to say, BLT, well, now you only have a 20-yard flat on the field, right? So boom, I'm just going to call a route concept like this, where I'm going to attack both areas. And yes, you're right, because that pass is going to be wide open. You have a 20-yard flat, and they call a 5-yard out route. Boom, that's going to be wide open. Well, meet the double Mabel coverage, right? Where you're going to use your zone drops. You already have your flat set to 20. You have your curl flat set to 5. Well, now I'm just going to put my slot corner in a curl flat. I'm going to put my linebacker in a curl flat, something like this. Well, now if they call the same route concept, right, corner streak flat, we're just going to have a guy sitting at 20 yards down the field to take that away. And then, you see an easy interception, but then also if we look at the replay, there's a guy sitting on that B receiver running that out route. Right? So, okay, boom, out routes taken away very easily by this 5-yard curl flat. And then we have our 20 sitting on this, deeper route. So that's how you can use zone drops. If they want to use underneath routes, set your curl flats to 5. They want to push the ball down the field a little bit more, then you can just set your flats to 20 or 25. But then if they want to attack both at the same time, that's when you use the cover 2 double Mabel, set both of them 25 and 5, put them both in the field, and everything's going to be taken away. A pro guide to the best zone drop settings. All right, next you want to know how these pro players seem to complete every single pass they throw and really never take negative plays and sacks. Let me show you exactly what they're doing. All right, what these pro players are doing when they're playing offense is they're calling and focusing a lot on what I call everything beaters, plays that can beat every single defense in this game. It's all about the route concepts that you're calling, all right? I'm going to have them in random defense, and I'm going to use the defensive line, so I don't really know what they're doing, right? But it doesn't matter to me, because I'm just going to call a play that I know can beat every single defense, all right? So I'm just going to probably call something like this, right? Where, if you want to only send 4 people out, that's fine. You could always send your running back out, and that would probably be even better, right? But boom, I'm just going to take the snap. I don't really know what defense they're in, but I'm going to call this play a few times, and you're going to see I'm going to have a man open every single time. I'm going to be able to get rid of the ball immediately. I'm going to be able to have good pocket presence, do all the things that are very important to offense, right? So again, same route concept. I don't know what defense they're in. We're going to have our tight end open right there. And it's all about just read progression. And that would probably be a great time to just start speed boosting around the field, especially when you're in the open field. But That's all it is. It's all about just read progression and understanding, where the first read is. All right, the first one in this play is the tight end. Then I'm looking to secure in the crosser. Then I'm progressing to my backside return route. And again, all this has to happen really quickly. Okay, so again, boom. This time I just see that pass wide open. Now, granted, my quarterback sails the ball, but if they give you that opening in the middle of the field, right, that's going to be the perfect opportunity just to take it. All right, boom, take the snap. They're going to be in man coverage here. And then when they're in man, obviously, you want to be looking, for your tight end. You're just on his drag route. It's just an easy opportunity to take. And so that's what you're going to try to do. All right, boom, take the snap again. We're going to have the same defense. And then that would be a great time to hit your return out, okay? Always understanding read progression. You can do this out of a lot of different plays. See, I've done it with that play, but there's other everything beaters in the game too. It's all about just route concepts, right? If we come into motion cross post, this is an everything beater as well. You make one high route, put your tight end on a shriek, and then you're just reading the defense. You just have to have a clear read progression. Right here, I'm just going to take my, halfback crab rat out of the backfield. Again, great time to use skill moves, whether it be speed bursting, whatever you got to do. Certainly take your chances, but everything beaters are so important to offense. It just makes it very easy to where you can have read progressions and actually, go through your progressions and not really have to worry about, oh, what defense are they in this play? Obviously, right here, they're going to be in man coverage. And when they're in man coverage, just look for your drag routes, your crab routes out of the backfield and, pick up easy yards. All right. So again, it's pretty simple. It's really just calling plays that like for a fact. Hey, it doesn't matter what defense they're in. It doesn't matter what adjustments they make. I know exactly where I need to go. RB, then I'm probably looking to B right here. I'm just going to look to B on the sideline. That's the easy completion. So you can start to see how I know where the ball's going to go before the play. These guys know where the ball's trying to go before the play. And then it's just actually reading what adjustments they have on the field after the ball snaps. So call a play that can beat every defense with a really great route concept, and then just read the defense after the ball snap to know where you're going to go with the ball. All right, you feel like every time you watch these guys are scoring touchdowns in one play, guys are running wide open. Let me show you the route that they're using. All right, in that route that I'm talking about here, I think my camera is actually blocking it, is going to be this one from shot, fade, cross. All right, we're going to go ahead and call the play. I'm going to put my camera back, and you're just going to see how, look at this route to X. Now, I said it earlier in the video, you can just press Y, then click on your receiver and put a slot fade on any receiver. All right, so any slot receiver, if he's lined up in the slot, he can run a slot fade. So realistically, you can just double slot fade them, right? We can put them in cover 2, reset the play. Here, I could put Tavon Austin on a slot fade. Then I could put my tight end on a go ball. I could put DK on a go. And now you see we have a slot fade on both sides. So really, we're just going to have a guy wide open down the sideline on both sides, right? And so that's exactly what you're able to see. Because he's just going to run right over the flat zone and he's going to get wide open. Well, now what does that unlock for you? All right, we're going to put them right back into cover 2. All right, and so then we're just going to call the same route concept, boom, and then you're going to see we're just going to have Adam Thielen, shout out Aaron Rodgers, wide open on the sideline, because once he runs over the top of those flat zones, it's going to be just a party in the USA, right? Just wide open. No chance, right? It's just logic, right? You just run right over the zone, and then it's just an easy completion. The key, though, is against other defenses and when it becomes useful, right? This time, we're going to put them in cover 3. And this comes back to the everything beater that I talked about in the last segment. Because now, when I call a route concept like this, now I would probably put my running back on the in route. If I call a route concept like this, I'm double slot fading them. It doesn't matter what hash mark I'm on. It really doesn't even matter what defense they're in, because you're going to see, especially if we're on the short side, we're just going to have that throw wide open. But if they switched it onto that, we would have the throw to the other side open, right? Because really what you're just going to see is, boom, we're just going to hold this guy in the middle, and then they have their hook zones dropping far back, and so that's why I talk about, like, just sneak your running back out on an in route or sneak your running back out on a shriek, right? So let me show you this. All right, so we're going to put them right back into cover 3, and we're going to put our running back on a go. All right, we're going to call our double slot fade concept. Okay, this is what the route, and you're going to say I'm crazy for this because I have 5 go balls, but really you're just attacking an area. Right now, you're going to see those hook zones. They're not far enough, or excuse me, they're not backing far enough up. They're too far down. So I'm just going to look right up the seam to my tight end. But if they were came too far down, right, then I'm just going to look to my running back, right? But then also you see, if you give it time, you're going to have Thielen wide open on the slot fade. So you can start to see how when you use slot fades, it's like you're just going to be able to destroy their coverage because it's not even going to matter what defense they're in. You just double slot fade them and you're going to have someone wide open on the field, right? And so, I mean, that's going to be against like every single zone coverage. So we're just going to keep calling this route concept, and you're going to see, I mean, this time they're going to be in man coverage. Now, granted, I have my man wide open down the field, or excuse me, my tight end route, but especially when they run zone, this is when this can become unstoppable. Now I'm in practice mode, but you can smart route these routes, and then you can stem him further up the field, right? And so essentially, right, if they run like press man coverage, right, they shade their coverage inside, okay, you're gonna see Benson versus Tavon Austin right here, boom, and you're just gonna see how he's just gonna run up the field and kind of bend that route off. Now you see how he gets behind him though? And so if you have like more room on the field, right? So if I back this ball up, I put him on a slot fade, all right, then I smart route him, all right, and then I stem him up, right, just like this, or stem him up like 4 notches, right? So you're gonna see how, boom, we're just gonna take this snap, and you're just gonna watch how he just bends this route off. And you literally just, I mean, he's just gonna get behind that defender like every single time. These routes are so insane. So I showed you it against man coverage. I showed you it against zone coverage. Slot fades destroy every single defense in the game. And whether you can get them stopped or you have to hot route to them, you need to start using them. All right, you want to know how these guys seem to get the quarterback on the ground in timely situations. Let me show you the best pro blitzes that they're using right now. All right, and so we're gonna come into mid blitz right here, all right? And this is not gonna be the little regular Sen 6. Y'all like to talk about mid blitz isn't a good defense versus really good players, but you see it time and time again from pro players. So have that make sense to me, all right? All we're going to do is we're gonna take this linebacker right here. We're gonna stand right over the center. Now, you're trying to engage with the center. You can see, think about this. If I get the attention of 54, I have 3 defenders on the left side, and they only have 2 blockers. So that's all you're trying to do. You're just gonna overload blitz them, all right? Drop your defensive end into a curl flat, right? Press D-pad up, right trigger, left stick down, all right? And so you're just trying to ram into this center and then get off the block. So they're gonna take the snap, you're gonna try to get the attention of the center, and then you let Joey Bosa come in free. Now, it's not going to be easy to do this, right? Like, it's not, like, the offensive line, they're gonna try to make sure that you don't accomplish your goal. You see how these guys are like sliding over because they don't want 54 to get involved in this block because they understand that if he does, you know, you have a huge numbers advantage, right? And so you're going to try to set up the same way, but that doesn't deter us. That doesn't mean that we're not going to try our hardest to do it because we understand if we can simply do it, it's going to be easy to get pressure. Boom, you can see I get his attention, and then we have that guy coming in completely free off the edge. Now, you can do whatever you want behind the blitz, whether you want to play pass coverage, you want to run zone coverage, man coverage, whatever you got to do, you can do whatever you want. But you can see how, okay, this is what I'm talking about. You get the attention of 54, all right? Boom, I get the attention of 54. What does that do? It allows for our guys to play 3-on-2 on the backside of this play. They loop around and they get pressure. All right, so I mean, that's really all it is. It's a pretty simple and routine blitz that you can utilize. I'll have a clip of me doing it right here. All right, so you just saw in that clip how in game, I get the attention of the lineman and then we go get the quarterback down. We try again, I get the attention of him, and same thing where that defender is coming in free off the edge. All right, so that's really all it is. They can do whatever they want as far as blocking. You're actually dropping an extra guy out of this play right here. So you're dropping number 50 out to the flat as well. So that's gonna help your pass coverage. And again, you can play zone coverage out of this if you want, but man coverage probably just makes it a little bit easier just because it's like you're able to play defense for a very small amount of time and get that quick pressure. All right, but that's not gonna be the only blitz I'm talking about because there's actually a better blitz that's a little bit easier to set up. All right, so we're gonna come into dime 3-2. Now I'm in a real game just because this blitz doesn't really work that well in practice mode, but it works way better in a real game. All right, so you wanna make sure you have auto flip off with this blitz. All right, you're gonna come into cover 4 quarters from dime 3-2. You're going to take this defender and you're basically gonna drag him over. Now, he's gonna try to move back over, but here's the thing. You have to make sure you bump him into this player. Once you bump him into that other defender, then he actually stays put, all right? And so then you're just gonna pass commit your defense and you're just trying to get the attention of the offensive line. Now, this is gonna be a loop blitz, boom, move these guys over, and you can see how he just loops right around the offensive line for easy pressure, all right? So that's probably the biggest gripe that you're seeing with the setup of this blitz. I mean, maybe you've seen it before, maybe you haven't, but if you just try to move this guy over, right? If you just try to move him over here, you're gonna see that time he actually stayed put, which is great. But sometimes you have to bump him into the other linebacker, Lloyd, and that'll basically get him to stay. All right, so boom, we're gonna set it up again, get the attention of the line. Now, I don't ever want to sell you a false dream. That time you see the O-line picks him up, but everyone else is obviously in a one-on-one, which means that you have good defensive linemen. You're able to get a shed, right? So, I mean, but whenever you can get a blitz like this to confuse the offensive line and almost get a looper or get the looper to come in free, I mean, just look at this. When you also get the attention of 77, he can't double team Josh Allen, who's going to destroy this tackle in a one-on-one situation. But the last thing with this defense is that you have great pass defense minded because you're in match coverage, right? So you're in match defense, which means boom, corner out gets guarded, drag route gets guarded, table route gets guarded. So it's basically like automatic defense. And then you only have to like sit here over the middle with your user, right? I'm obviously stopping to show you the blitz, but you want to make sure that you're continuing to find work down the field and figure out what you have to do, you know, as far as pass defense. So that's one of the best blitzes here in the game, both of them, two really good blitzes that you need to start using. All right, I've showed you some complex stuff here in this video that you can go practice, but BLT, what about a simple defense that all the pro players use? John Beast really loves this. Let me show you. All right, so it really doesn't matter what play they call. All right, we're just gonna come into a defense like nickel 3-3 over. Okay, we're gonna come down until we find this play. Cover 3 cloud, all right? That's all you're trying to do. Now, all you're trying to do is basically switch stick. Whatever route concept they have on the field, it really doesn't matter because we're just reading the play, all right? Just stand right here over a receiver, all right? They're gonna call play action and we're just trying to switch stick, take everything away, right? And so again, you have to make sure you're having a good switch stick. Sometimes they call good route concepts that, you know, put your user in a tough position, but that's all it is. You see, you have a whole bunch of underneath defenders, right? And so when that's the case, you're gonna easily be able to just switch stick, right? And rely on your pass rush. Sometimes that's the best way to get pressure is to pinch your defensive line so that everyone's pretty much in a one-on-one, stand right over the center and pass commit your defense. Because now you see, boom, I don't know what route concept they have called, but we're just gonna come down and take away that dig. If they threw that pass to Y, we're breaking on it for an interception because we understand we didn't have anyone else to guard on that right side of the field. So let's take one of the guys on the right side and just, you know, switch stick onto him and then guard him. And then you see everyone was in a one-on-one, so we're able to get pressure on the quarterback. All right, right here, same thing, set the defense up same way. It's very simple. It's like no adjustments, right? And so then we're just able to take everything away over the middle of the field. Sometimes you might need to switch stick a few times. So again, that's a very simple defense that you can set. We're just gonna have them call one more play right here. You know, it doesn't really matter what they want to call, but it's just like, dude, sometimes you don't have to overcomplicate defense. Sometimes you just have to pinch your defensive line. This is what the pro players do. They just get pressure organically. I mean, sometimes they use blitzes like I showed you earlier, but everything comes down to switch stick, right? Because you don't want to allow your zones to just play for themselves. You want to take control and find work and have a really good user with the switch stick. So again, flicking that right stick, figuring out which routes are running for them and could get open, and then switching onto them. And like you see right here, we're getting pressure organically because we're locking everything down on the back end with a very simple defense. All right, so if you liked anything I broke down in that video, of course, make sure you go down below, hit that subscribe button, but check out my ebooks. Think about how concise and detailed everything was in this video. My ebooks are even better. I encourage you to go to the link down below in the pinned comment in the description and check them out, and I'll see you over there.